Welcome everybody to Weekly Wings, a dronelife.com podcast that is going to be bringing you the latest industry news and trends. So we appreciate you tuning in to listen. We got dronelife.com has been around since back in the day, and bringing that information online through publication has added great value to the industry, and we're excited to now take some, audio platform, visual platform, bring that together and help to continue to educate and inform readers. And with that said, I'm Paul Rossi. I will be co-hosting the podcast along with Terry and Samuel. We have Miriam McNabb with us for this pilot episode in order to just help, set the tone and communicate to, again, those folks who have found, great value over the years from what dronelife.com is doing and providing, and just to continue to be that source of information. So with that said, Miriam, I'd like to just hand it off to you in order to, tell folks how this is going to be great and what we hope to accomplish.
Sure. I am Miriam McNabb. I'm editor at dronelife.com. We've been around since 2013, but throughout our history, we have always relied upon technical resources like Paul Rossi, Terry, and Samuel to bring us the pilot perspective and kind of put those stories kind of in the air, so to speak, how they actually relate to people who are flying drones and working in the industry every day. So really delighted to have this opportunity to work with Paul, Terry, and Samuel to bring you that perspective and to bring the dronelife.com world to a new platform. So Paul, thank you so much for the collaboration over the last several years. Always appreciate your expertise and really excited to be part of this inaugural podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Miriam. It's super energizing to know that, to get involved, to learn, to educate, to network, to connect, to get out there and just, add value. It's an opportunity that exists for, just about anybody here in the United States. It's what makes this country, really, really great. And with that said, Samuel, if you just want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah. So my name's Samuel. I've been doing, I should say I was introduced into the drone community about 2018, 2019, got my license. From there, I started incorporating drones into photo shoots, videos, and I thought that was really cool. So I wanted to pursue that more. And I understood that there was so much more to the drone than just photo taking and video taking, that there was a whole industry going on. And I went ahead and tried to dive headfirst into that and started doing drone delivery, started doing drone instructing once I got good enough, and been through a few different learning situations. And I like to think myself as a kind of creative expert on using drones. So that's a little bit of my background, but a little nervous. This is my first podcast, yeah. But I'll go ahead and pass it to Terry.
Welcome to the team. We need you.
Thank you. And thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Samuel. And really excited to get your insights and inputs. And as we're recording here, there might be, don't worry, things are local on the computer. So just keep pushing through. Hopefully that audio will still record well. And with that said, Terry, you want to introduce yourself? Just, tell listeners who you are, and then we'll jump right in to the podcast.
Well, my name is Terry Neff. I've been in the drone industry since I was 17, currently 20 now. So a lot of my professional career has been working with drones. I'm still kind of young, but I think that's an advantage in in this drone industry nowadays. Other than that, my brother-in-law got me into it. It was kind of by luck of chance that I got into the drone industry, but I'm happy that it happened to me. And that's it.
Thanks, Terry. Yeah, Terry's brother-in-law has some connections with some more advanced, military type drone operations, and and then also got involved with some of the drone delivery stuff happening in North Carolina, which really opened the door for Terry. And I think that your story and how you've been able to, get involved in the industry and learn what it takes is something that there's a lot of folks out there listening, tuning in, reading, dronelife.com, audience that are going to gain a lot of value from you being on here and sharing thoughts, insights. So we'll go through in the beginning here for the next 10 minutes or so, kind of recapping some of the latest industry news. Just bringing up Drone Life here. I'll go ahead and share my screen. And so for folks that are familiar with, if you're, tuning in, you're watching this, you're seeing the dronelife.com website, all this great information, this platform, divided up news, products, industries, things like that. What I wanted to do is just kind of go into industry here, maybe just like click on construction. Oh, something's coming in here.
So I might, because the categories aren't really, they're sort of self-identified. If you go to news, you'll see everything in chronological order too. That might be more easier for you.
Do this
to navigate.
And go. Some we're not going to highlight in a second here. And we could touch on, what mass the DOT innovation and stuff. So starting on just like, something that was in person, drone safety, FA Drone Safety Day took place recently. I think it was over the weekend. I had the opportunity to tune into Mass DOT had on Monday morning. I believe it was or was it yesterday, Miriam?
Yeah, it was Monday. It was cybersecurity. So I am actually based out of Boston. So get to see the folks at Mass DOT pretty frequently. They're wonderful people. And, they invited me to their public-facing Drone Safety Day, which is really just great to see all of the different aircraft that they're using and the different projects that they're doing for a Department of Transportation. It's like so many different things that you're not even thinking about. So it's not just mapping roads, it's counting seagulls for the Department of Conservation, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and the cybersecurity piece is really a interesting topic. I was able, being in North Carolina, was able to tune in. They mentioned the afternoon get together they were going to have. Hearing it be explained as kind of like a genie in a box, and the IT departments being able to understand how to take that hardware and apply, the appropriate safety measures around a certain system. And Noel,
I think what is his name? Yeah,
very insightful listening to that. And then once they mentioned that, I was like, I wish I could just get in the car and drive up there and continue that conversation. But in-person events like this are great. I know NCDOT has done that. They seemed like, again, they were just like, hey, we want to bring people together. We want to collaborate. And I think the state DOTs are really helping drive forward a lot of that momentum. And in-person events, go ahead.
Sorry, I mean, you were talking about the cybersecurity. I thought the whole team at Mass DOT was really, really sharp and definitely on the leading edge of this stuff. And they said something kind of really interesting because, of course, Mass DOT is also responsible for, there's airports all across the state, small ones, and not just Logan Airport, whatever. And so they have counter UAS systems that they're thinking about and trying to deploy and sort of, they were talking about how they thought of cybersecurity, and I realize cybersecurity and counter UAS are two different things, but they think of these as not just like one tool, but as a whole process where you're mitigating risk. You're not mitigating aircraft, you're mitigating risk.
And absolutely the in-person aspect. I mean, Samuel, Terry, in-person events, what would you guys, just from for folks tuning in, if you're in the Massachusetts area and you see these things pop up, go out there and connect with folks. Have you guys had the ability to kind of do anything like that, or participate, or see things at a local level?
I personally
Terry.
haven't in the last few years I've been in the drone industry, but I mean, we've had to talk about our drones that we work with at our job for the community. Other than that, I don't really have any experience.
Get to an event, Terry.
I'll try. You guys should have warned me about the Holly Springs drone show, man. I didn't know.
Vegas, Samuel, I'll blame that on Samuel. Vegas, though, Terry's a UFC. We'll be talking UFC down the road here. Some of these big events. Terry's helped me become a huge UFC guy, and then Com UAV in Vegas. Terry, you're gonna have to.
I'll try.
I know you're familiar with that area. So September. Samuel, in person events. Value
I was gonna
folks,
say anytime. It's kind of funny whenever I do see like a drone nearby or something. I kind of just want to go say, hey, I want to go talk to these people and just network, or just even say, what's your perspective as a drone pilot? Because I saw my neighbor flying one day, and I'm like, I didn't know he flew. Let me go say hey, and just kind of being like, hey, this has been my experience. Do you know people that fly? You do? Oh, you do FPV? Okay, you're cooler than me. Wow. But things like that, whenever I see someone, I try to just kind of stop in, pop in, say something. I know for a while, my local community had a relatively strong network. I kind of haven't been in touch as much lately with my local community, but I would definitely encourage, whenever you see someone, just kind of pop in, introduce yourself, talk about drones, and get their perspective.
Yeah. Eventbrite, Facebook, there's a lot of stuff happening at that local level, even just fly-ins recreationally, but these DOT events, North Carolina DOT, Mass DOT, there's a few states, Texas, that are really doing well. And then transitioning to another, news coming out just very recently. We see here on the screen Brink and Skyfire consulting or partnering just to get more DFR programs off the ground, which, Miriam, you and I have, talked in the past over the last few years, and it's always like, hey, what's important over the next 12 months? What are we going to see in the next 6 months between this show and that show? And with the automation, the software, the dock hardware for, leaving out overnight, I think this is something that, again, and then the use case, it's life-saving. It's like a critical operation. The risk of not deploying could be higher than the risk of deploying.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many great use cases for this and great stories. The more I dive into it with, I do the public safety drone review with drone responders, and it's truly impressive. And I think this particular partnership, which I just put up today, this is kind of just getting stuff done, right? So the very hard part of DFR programs for many of these agencies is nobody has time to everybody is a working officer, so they don't have extra time to take on a full-time job of figuring out the waiver process, figuring out how to develop a training program for their staff, figuring out how to get all the licensing and keeping that straight. Everybody is a working officer. And so this is really just a great way to kind of get stuff done. Skyfire Consulting comes in and says, okay, we know exactly how to get these waivers taken care of, how to sort of get you in the regulatory and the training aspect all organized. And, Brink, of course, is supplying their hardware, which is designed. It's really unique stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with the lemur, but that is for sort of SWAT applications, has some truly unique features, also great for search and rescue, that kind of thing. So I think it's really a trend, and with things like this, it's really like, how do we just get this done, get these guys in the air?
And are you like DFR, Samuel, Terry,
drone first responder.
Yeah, drone
Yeah.
as a first responder. So I always compare this military, even video games. Right, Call of Duty. Like there was this time where all of a sudden you could call in a airstrike, or you could do a drone recon, and you could, after a certain streak of, good performance, right? You call in a UAV and you can deploy this asset to help you better understand situational awareness. And that's what the military's had. So we were able to, you have troop carrying aircraft that can see what the drone sees so that the soldiers know what to expect when they get on the ground. And we're seeing that with drones, where we can, quickly deploy a drone to be the first responder. Everyone's used to the EMT, the medic, the police officer. But
Or
what if it's
firefighter.
dangerous? Firefighter. What if the danger or the risk is so high during that initial response?
And actually, you bring up firefighter, one of the funny thing, well, it's not really funny, but one of the things that I found interesting is this is really a win-win for communities, especially, maybe smaller communities, because it's some ridiculously high percentage of calls to the fire department are actually not sort of valid service requests, right? So somebody says, "Oh, I think I saw smoke, from my neighbor's house down the street or something," and it turns out to be nothing. So if you have a, drone to go over and say, "Yeah, no, there's actually nothing happening here. You're okay." It saves a tremendous amount of time and money. Oh, sorry, barbecue.
Yeah.
You're not bringing the whole fire truck out there,
I was looking.
Exactly, which might be needed, somewhere else on the other side of town. So it's it's great when they do need it, and it's also great when they don't need it. So
Right.
I was looking at the Lemur too just before we hopped on here, and that thing has some insane features. It can push open doors. It can do real-time mapping of the house. It can break glass. Even in the video they showed, it got hit by a baseball bat, and then they threw it out a window, and it flipped itself over and then flew back up.
turtle
Put a
mode.
spotlight on
It's
them. Yep.
it's amazing.
It's
Paul, I know Paul had, okay, so actually Paul was with me. Paul and I were at a show together. We were in the Brink booth, and he says, "Look at this," and he takes it and he drops it on the cement floor of the thing, and I'm thinking, "Oh my God, Paul, we're gonna get charged for
they're going to kick us out. We're getting kicked out of the booth. Or there's
And
not
the thing just bounces, right? I forgot that was actually you that was with me that we did that. And he's like, "Look at this," and you drop it, and it just like boom, it's nothing, and it does the turtle mode. And because when you think about it, if you're going into a SWAT situation, somebody takes a baseball bat to it,
and there's durability. There's early development from the 1 to the 2, and learning. Drones have become very purpose built, as opposed to just like one size fits all. And then just from the large departments being able to leverage this on any call in order to best use their resources, or your smaller departments that might not have folks always available at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., right? So I think there's it's really exciting too, just to see folks partnering to push this stuff forward in industry. And then we've seen locally with the Sheriff's Association, police associations, they're starting to reach out to say, "Hey, our politicians are talking about this." So because there is a huge overlap when you put something like this out into the community. And with that said, putting drones out into the community, we'll kind of transition to the next topic, where for the next few minutes we're gonna touch on our featured topic for the show, and that today is going to be light shows, drone light shows. If you have seen one in person, it's like seeing fireworks for the first time. You've seen it on video, but now seeing it in person, seeing the lights light up, And me being a drone operator, I'm just thinking it's dark out and I could just see people running back and forth, making sure everything's ready to go, and the stress in order to put on such a fun thing. So at Exponential Weather, there was going to be a show that would have been the first I'd gotten to see, but unfortunately it didn't take off, pun intended. Flew back to North Carolina, and this past Saturday, we actually had a company, Air Vision, a few different people involved there, a couple Scotts, I think. I know Scott Kieran is one who I personally know, so super excited for him and for what they're doing. But wow, April, was it 27th, this Saturday, saw drones go in the air, and Samuel bumped into Samuel there, had the family, and it was so cool to see that. But what do you think, Samuel? The future?
I think it was cool too, because it was like that amalgamation. It is the drone industry. It's the amalgamation of different people, whether it's first responders or if it's actual aviators. Like I saw this kid that was probably 5-6 years old. He had this aviation shirt on. I almost did not understand because it had all these different stuff on it that goes for an airplane, and I'm like, oh, this kid probably knows more about an airplane than I might. But I just really enjoyed seeing the variety of people in the community coming together and enjoy that special thing. So yeah, I mean, I want my nephew to see it too, because he's scared of fireworks. He's scared of the noise, and I don't remember hearing the noise of the drones. I just remember seeing them move around in this intricate pattern to form animation, and I was like, this is really cool. But I thought that was pretty awesome. Excited to see where it goes in the future. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, actually, what do you guys think of this as a business opportunity? So as kind of, people in the drone industry, what do you think of it as an opportunity for somebody who wants to get sort of into their own business? And
I see it as like it can be a really amazing thing, especially as someone who's done animation before. In my head, I'm just thinking, okay, this is what they did to animate it. Like, this is the software they used. This is what they did with each drone, how they prepped it. And while I'm sitting at the drone show, you could see that they would pop 1 or 2 up every couple minutes, just kind of testing it to make sure it worked. And in my head, I'm thinking logistically, like, okay, this is how many drones are they operating? What's their fleet size? What is the capacity for the runtime of the show? Are they going to have another fleet pop up once this one gets rid of their battery charge? Just kind of thinking of all that stuff. But going past that, I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity for many drone operators throughout the years to come. I don't want to just fully plow through this topic, but I'm already seeing news articles about places that are adopting light shows using drone technology. But I don't want to hog this conversation if anyone wants to jump in.
And that was Universal, right?
Yeah, no, yeah. So
do you have
Universal?
Can you pop that up just to
yeah.
Do you got it up on the screen? Just pop that up.
I don't have that article up available.
Terry already found it, and there's like I can see the reflection. No, I'm just kidding.
Say it again.
I was saying Terry already found it.
He might have.
And I think what's interesting is I think that was Universal that you had shared, is looking at like incorporating a drone light show regularly,
right?
Just like fireworks.
Right.
You go on every Friday. I remember growing up, there was a couple folks in Massachusetts will know, old Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun, but that Mohegan Sun used to have fireworks every Friday or Thursday. I can remember going to the commuter parking lot right off the highway, and we would just sit there and watch the fireworks. And I think that's drone light shows. I think it's a huge opportunity. Again, the hardware, and then Samuel touched on the software. I kind of looked at it, and I think barriers to entry, it's great, right? For someone who wants to kind of capture more, be more of a challenge, but also a higher payout, more risk, more reward. There's waivers, there's, the technical, the logistical aspects of moving equipment across the country or wherever you want to support. But
there's barriers to moving explosives across the country to do fireworks.
And so fireworks, right? but then to go to this, when you buy your fireworks, I think, I'm not a fireworks expert, but I'm sure there's some variables and you can kind of get creative. But Samuel touched on it. When it comes to drone light shows, where I when I got to the point of animation, I had a conversation with Samuel, and it was like, you know, you can get the stock stuff. You can get the drag and drop drone light shows, the bunny, the this, and everything is kind of like Adobe stock. And then you're going to have the drone. And this is where we'll see in the future the differentiation between those operators, who's coming at it with their own animation, choreographed music.
And think about the branding opportunities too. Like we're seeing a lot of, Google celebrates their anniversary or something with a special drone lights show because you can put branding across this. So the opportunities are
And that's kind of what they did at the very end of their show. They popped up their own logo. And what I really wanted to see from the show specifically was the North Carolina flag. I was kind of hoping for that personally, but have it in our home state. But it was cool because, they had that image pop up and I'm like, oh, wow, that is awesome. That's pretty cool to see. But I went ahead and shared my screen. This is kind of some concept art where they're using projectors, as well as you can see the music note in the background. That's a drone. There's another music note that's also a drone. 2 different fleets going on right there. And I would say that's probably 50 drones per image, Paul, if you were to guess roughly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just throwing that number out there.
The Mama G Cliff, is that what the one on the right was called?
Yeah.
I think that looks like it could be 100. I think that right there, the integration, again, it's taking the drone, integrating into what you're already providing in order to make that service better. I'm thinking of like, what is it at Disney? They have the Mickey, the big outdoor, the water shoots up and the water shoots here. And, we might see it there. And
I think if you take a look to anybody who's interested can search sort of drone animation competitions, because there are worldwide competitions for drone animations and the winners. Oh my goodness. Really amazing.
And was it Pablo Air, right? Take the 2, put the fireworks on drones, Terry, Samuel, Miriam, I think. Yeah. So now the company's like, well, it can't just be a drone. We gotta throw the Roman candle, the thing the kids did. Yeah. We're pyrotechnics on drones. So it's exciting, man. Technology, innovation.
I will have
Terry,
to say,
you bummed out. You bummed out. You didn't get up to old Apex.
Yeah. I need to see one eventually. But I will say, if anybody's going to be picking up this technology, it's going to be Disney. They're always improving what they can make their park even better. They're always looking how to make it better. So you can guarantee you'll see it at Disney soon, if they haven't already done it.
I definitely think they're messing with the software, or not even the software, but the software, the hardware. I mean, they call them the Imagineers, like these people are literally, their job is to make the best, coolest thing ever. I will say lately, though, this is a whole different industry, theme park industry. They're opening a whole new theme park in Universal Studios, Florida, Orlando. The long name, but that's kind of why they wanted to invest in their old park, is so people don't lose interest. And what's the cutting edge technology right now is drone light shows. So that's why they are popping that up, saying, hey, we're opening a new park, but we're not going to lose interest in the old one. So come check it out. This is what's going on here. But yeah, I mean, kind of like you said, Tara, I'd love to see Disney take that on as well. Honestly, I'd love to see more North Carolinians take that on from a local standpoint. But I guess that's kind of like depending on operators, depending on who's actually asking for that, you know? I'm sorry, I'm getting a little excited about it.
Are they going to contract with, but those shows look so detailed to do something like that in-house, which means animators, remote pilots. These are new jobs that we'll see theme parks hiring for. And again, it's going to go to it'll probably get Busch Gardens. What do you got? Lake Compounds right there in old Bristol, Connecticut, across from ESPN. So you have, of course, the majors are always going to integrate this technology first, but the job that are going to come from this technology that even sitting here having this conversation, it's like, oh, wow.
But you were saying, Paul, like you used to go every Friday night, when you were kids to watch the fireworks, right? So my husband and I, we actually love minor league baseball. So we follow minor league baseball, and our local minor league baseball team, when there's a Friday night game, they always have a fireworks show, right? But I think that there's plenty of room too for the local guy, just like the local fireworks show provider who does that all summer, to start doing smaller shows for the minor league baseball games or the major league baseball games or whatever, during the season, the football season, whenever, to do those local events too, not just, at Disney. So I think it's actually capable of sort of scaling, just like fireworks shows or music.
Yeah, I think
a
big thing for me personally. Go ahead, Paul.
I'd say the brand awareness. Everybody's sponsoring small events, big events. So even a 30, 50 drone light show can bring a lot of value to a local tunnels to tower run. A local, even you mentioned it, the Fayetteville Woodpeckers. I didn't get to see it, but they apparently did a light show. Single A ball club for the Houston Astros. And they're going to know exactly what, if you got the Houston Astros integrating this tech, they're going to be able to filter it, and say, hey, this does work. But go ahead, Samuel.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm constantly trying to understand where the industry is going and how people do what they're doing. And currently this has been what's on my mind is how are people doing drone light shows? What waivers do you need to get specifically? So this is a topic I still need to kind of learn a bit more about, but I would love to know what they're doing and how they do it, because to be able to bring that, whether it's me or someone else, to my local community, I think that'd be awesome. Kind of whether it starts from the big guys and goes down, or if it's little guys going up, either way, I just love to see it spread around.
There are a few software providers out there. Sorry, Terry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I don't think that small businesses will be able to get into it currently. I think the technology needs to go a little bit further, because you have to think about how much money it's going to cost to buy 200-300 drones, keep maintenance up on them, replace batteries, fix them, pay for the software. Who knows how much the software costs? But I'm not saying it's not possible right now, but in the future it'll be a lot easier for smaller guys to get it done.
That's going to be like a
plug and play.
I don't know.
On that point, to be able to just plug it in and work, I think the drone light shows work and they do great, but I think there might still be that technical hump that again, risk versus reward. Whereas in 5 years, there will be some really proven platforms that work. And then I think that's going to open the door for the small folks to work together. Hey, I am in the Southeast. I bought 100 of these drones. Hey, there's a company in the Northeast that has 100 of the same drones. We can now come together and collaborate and do a bigger show together and kind of share in the market. So 80% of your work is locally with your own fleet, and then you might find, regional partnerships to help connect the dots. I think if the technology can mature, because no one wants you to know what they're flying right now. It's kind of, a little we're doing it. How did we get our waiver? That's the secret sauce that we still have. But that was a great point, Terry, as far as initial. And
Terry mentions that, I'm just thinking about the mountain of paperwork for keeping up with each individual drone. What day did you replace this part? Because I know I'm looking through some of the new 107 tests, and it's talking about maintenance for your drone and record keeping, and it's imagine 50 of those. So that would be a lot to keep up
software.
with. Software. That's where the software
management
comes in.
Software, baby.
Right.
You're only seeing 20% of it. All of the rest is back end mitigation. And with that, on that note, speaking of software, we're going to transition kind of to a tech side for our weekly for this weekly discussion and podcast here, and we got two kind of tech pieces that we just wanted to bring up and bring to folks' attention. Listeners, make sure you're aware of this. Pix4D. So Pix4D, for those folks who are not completely aware, is a launched as a photogrammetry, drone mapping, modeling. You take pictures from the drone, you put it in, it would process them into 2D maps and 3D models that you could do annotations and inspections. And they've, transitioned and moved into interior and exterior. So they've integrated some, technologies here now for augmented reality, which is becoming huge for building information modeling and as built. And some really cool things. It's directly integrating with RTK, some of these different well-known, handheld sensors. But Miriam, what, anything else kind of just touching on this as far as?
Well, I think it's really interesting when people are sort of thinking about it used to be kind of drone mapping, right? That's what people would call it. It was drone mapping. And now people have sort of moved to this theme of reality capture, because it's not really about just getting the aerial view. It's about getting the whole view of whatever you're trying to document, right? So I think that all of these platforms, Pix4D is a leading one, Drone Deploy is a leading one, Carlson, Airlogic, all of these different mapping platforms are really sort of expanding the definition of drone mapping and making it sort of more and more and more useful in more and more situations, and additionally making it sort of easier to be precise on a consistent basis. So I think this particular one is a really interesting sort of new technology. If you're a Pix4D user, or if you're looking for, definitely go check it out. But I think that the trend in that technology is continually moving towards this sort of reality capture, making it easier and broader in context than just drone mapping or even, photogrammetry.
That is literally like kind of so insane to me. Is like it's like Google Street View, but on a whole nother level. You can get, I don't know if you like, for those familiar with Google Earth, you can get a vague outline, the blocks and shapes of houses in a 3D model. However, it seems like with Pix4D, it's going to be relatively very detailed with what you can capture. And then you not only have that as a viewable object, but you can actually export it. Do we know it, like what type of file? STL file, OBJ, or it might be a little in depth, but essentially just being able to explore that 3D model you've built. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's really, the uses are kind of amazing for this technology. So I've seen it demonstrated, actually, not with Pix4D, but with a different one on a construction site, where they can then apply artificial intelligence, kind of AI powered analysis, and be like, how big was that pile of stuff? So that when you look in here, you can see he was running that video. You can see like a pile of wood or something in the background, and they can actually estimate how much stock they have there. Or all kinds of questions can be answered by applying analytics to a measurement accurate representation. So
Yeah, and you can see they got, like you said, OBJ files, shape files, the traditional outputs. It's going to output what the traditional softwares are looking to ingest. And then what is really neat, just to point out, in as the video played, is the MLID, which is, making waves with their receivers. The handheld receiver you see here, you can see it as an RTK fix. So you touched on the precision, Samuel, and it's getting that, like you explained it really well. Google Street View with a very high degree of precision because of the technology that's integrated into it. 36 satellites, what we saw there, are all telling that sensor exactly where it is. Here you can see 38. It's actually picking up 38 satellites.
I'm actually really impressed, and I'm kind of envious of this. This looks really 41. Cool. But I have a kind of two
They
things.
have a whole suite of tools.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Please.
I forgot the first one actually, but let me. Oh, yeah, no, I was thinking like practical uses too. Is like I could just imagine if you were location scouting for a film or something, you could throw that bad boy up, get a nice visual, not just pictures, but you could literally show your director like, hey, this is what we captured. This would look great if we had our people here. Not only like when I'm wanting to go shoot something in my head, I'm thinking, okay, where do I need to put my people? What is where? I need to think about positioning of objects that I can see maybe with a video, maybe with a photo, but if I have a 3D landscape I can import into a software, that's going to make my workflow so much easier. I can easily navigate as if I was there. But that's just kind of what popped into my head.
And if you think about in architecture, yeah, you
That's a
can
good
say,
idea.
here's the site.
Right.
I would have to move that tree and that,
Yeah, instead
I
of
don't
sending
know
out the
if
whole
you remember,
crew,
but
you just
when
got
a
one dude with
noter...
a camera.
Sorry, Terry?
I was just saying that nothing.
No,
Go
you're
ahead.
exactly right. The return on investment is huge, right? Because instead of sending out a whole crew to look at the same thing, you are sending one person to capture that data and then show it to everybody. You're exactly right.
And not
And you
even
revisit
just
it
for
over and
like...
over again.
What's that? I keep interrupting. I'm sorry about that.
The ability, no, the ability to house rule. No, the ability to revisit over and over. You go there once, you just take a video, but not send a ton of people there, but then to share with all the different folks involved. And then GeoDNet. So I wanted to we talked about the precision here. How are we getting the precision? How are we getting that real time correction? And
this is cool. This is actually something, until you had interviewed this company, this was not something I was aware of. So I think this is really new stuff.
This is really cool because as that video was showing that MLID handheld getting real-time corrections, it has to be connected to a station that is feeding it those corrections. So there's accuracy, GPS as a utility as far as for our phones, which is, good to 3 meters. That's a no cost service. It's, covered by governments. But if you want to get into that precision, you have to start integrating some other, ground-based terrestrial infrastructure. GEODNET is a organization that's transforming RTK, and they're doing it through blockchain, which has been something I've been spinning tires trying to understand. And Bitcoin can still be very confusing, but when you understand the blockchain from a utility and the computing that you're adding or the data, so GeoDNet it's a decentralized physical infrastructure network. So imagine if Verizon, when they started their cell phone service, they allowed individuals to put up their own cell towers and then connect them to the service, and you get paid for offering your signal. So people all across all across the world are putting up their own miners.
That was the picture in the article, was the little miner that you can put up.
Yep, that picture right here. A lot of people are familiar with the RTK. You see things like this coming up on excavators or bulldozers. You see them on vehicles for that enhanced accuracy. There is,
that's quite a few.
Over 4,600 of these antennas spread out globally. And so you can go to this map live now. Anybody can go here. Anyone who's interested in RTK, but if you're trying to you can subscribe to this service and you can use it in order to offer real-time corrections to your equipment. They're going to be doing lawnmowers,
for those
right?
that are just listening, if you could verbally describe kind of what we're seeing too, because it's just a map of the United States that has all these different locations populated.
Each point is one of those. Yep, each one of those is a location with one of those antennas. So when you're within a certain range of these stations, you can connect to it and increase the accuracy. Exactly what we saw being done in that the video that just played for Pix4D. So anyone can buy a station and install that station, and that's the decentralized portion of this. Is each of these is owned by an individual, not by GeoDNet. So GeoDNet has quickly been able to kind of grow, and if you're willing to, sign up, connect, plug this in, about 2 watts of power is what it consumes on a daily basis, and keep that connected to the internet. What you're doing is mining space weather. So Geode is a utility token that is actually on the Polygon blockchain network. So I know this is nothing that I can explain in 4 minutes, 5 minutes, even probably 35 minutes could be intensive. I look forward to unpacking what's happening here. I learned about this through GNSS inside GNSS. They were at Exponential, had a chance to speak with the co-founder. And it is a really neat project. And as we see drones being manufactured with RTK antennas built in, this becomes more value add. Because having the antenna on your drone is one thing, but now you have to connect that to the network. And that's what GeoDNet is. So for folks that are, interested in cryptocurrency, real-time positioning, drones, technology, I really recommend going over to that GeoDNet website and just learning about it, and it might help you if you were like me trying to go, how does this cryptocurrency work and where does the value in this blockchain come from? This is this was a really good physical network solution that helped me understand how individuals can help add value through computing or data and get value for it.
And that's Geode, GEODNET. And what's the website for those who are just listening?
.com, GEODNET.com, geodnet.com.
Great.
What do you guys think, Terry, Samuel? Are you guys mining anything?
I have not
ESCA
delved into
might
that
got me
just
a few
yet.
years ago, but not currently.
It sounds like a great idea, but I do live in a condo. I'd have to check what my regulations said.
And just a note, the miners cost $700, but I'm just throwing that out there for the listeners.
For
It's not
those that
free
are
money.
interested.
Yeah, it might take you a while.
Yeah. Currently trading at 28 cents per coin. If you have the perfect antenna location, and you're always connected to the internet, you're currently going to get about 48 tokens per day. So 48 geo tokens. Do the math, Terry. See, now he's busting out the calculator. Everybody always starts here, and then you start to break it down.
Okay, by the end of the show, I want to know how many days it's going to take me to pay for that $700 receiver.
Said 28 cents.
28 cents times 40 a day.
Yeah,
Right?
About $14. About $14. That might be worth it. Get a few of them.
And you're only using, it's low power consumption. So that's what's really neat about this solution. Low power consumption, decentralized, power to the antenna owner, right? And then it's really low cost. So also for folks who are, not ready to throw up a miner or make that initial $700 purchase, Terry, there's two sides of it. It's a solution for RTK. So if you want real-time corrections nationally, globally, some states are charging $500 for a 1-year subscription. And if you're operating in multiple states, that can become expensive. So they're offering this like one-stop shop. It's $400 annually. And so there's the user side and then there's the miner side. So definitely encourage folks to go check out GeoDNet and what they have going on. And now kind of transition Miriam, Amsterdam, exponential, going forward. Is there any, you have any thoughts from your overseas recent trip?
Sure, absolutely. And before I get into that, I know in the future, what we'd love to do is to have audience questions here in this section. So we will be providing. You can always send questions to Paul or to myself. I'm Miriam at dronelife.net. So if you'd like to see dronelife.com, I don't even know my own email address. I'm Miriam at dronelife.com or editor at dronelife.com, and send in any questions that you would love to see this crew address on the show. Please send them our way. But since we don't have any questions because it's our first attempt, we're going to talk about some of the shows that we've been to. Actually, Paul helped share the load for Drone Life this month. I went overseas to Amsterdam Drone Week. Then you went to San Diego for Exponential. Amsterdam Drone Week is always interesting, mostly because it's in Amsterdam, but no. Also because it's heavily about AAM and advanced air mobility. So got to see some really cool things, heard from some of the leading companies, Whisk, who hopes to be the first certified autonomous air taxi in the world. Really interesting stuff. So got kind of more on the front line of some of those efforts, the team that is making it happen for the Paris Olympics this summer, which will feature air taxis. So really kind of got to deep dive into that stuff, nerd out on that, which is really a fascinating topic. But I do think, in my talks with some of the other industry leaders, I think, Esther Kovacs of Drone Talks, she kind of said it best. She said, this is where the rubber hits the road for the drone industry right now. And some of the theme is, hey, the funding environment has dramatically changed. That's not new news. I've published a lot on that. Drone Industry Insights, one of the best analysts in the business, publishes a very detailed funding landscape. Funding is not flowing to good ideas anymore right now in the drone industry. You've got to start making money. And so that's really sort of a very interesting place to be in the drone industry. It's exciting to watch, but it's how people are really sort of looking around and saying, how do I commercialize right now with the regulations the way they are, right now with the technology the way it exists right now? What can I do for customers?
Yeah.
How about you? Exponential.
Yeah. Samuel wants to go Amsterdam. What's up, Samuel?
Sorry, I heard drone taxi. When did you say they were thinking of doing that?
So yes, I know. It seems like what?
In Dubai.
No,
like,
but
not that soon.
They are existing in Dubai. So drone air taxis do exist in Dubai autonomously, but they run a specific route from here to there. It's kind of a tourist thing. They are going to implement air taxi services for the Paris Olympics this summer.
That's what I thought you said.
That's crazy, right? Yeah,
that is crazy.
No,
that's
it's
insane.
real. For most advanced aviation, for AAM, they will be piloted at first, but then Whisk, the other thing I was talking to the guys at Whisk, those will be the first autonomous certified air taxis. So, we're a couple of years away from that, but you would be amazed at the technology is there now. It's kind of a question of how do you work through the infrastructure and the regulations and the systems and everything else, which is, no mean feat, right? You can have a car, but if you have no roads, no DMV, no licensing, no speed limit, no whatever.
Superchargers, where do you get these transformers? the beta, right? We're team beta.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody, I got to ask all of you. All right, Terry, you first. Would you ride in an unpiloted or an autonomous air taxi? You do
Give
not
it a-
have control over this. Human supervisor on the ground. You're just a passenger.
I wouldn't want to be the first person. Can I say that?
Second, third, 100th.
Samuel, how about you?
10,000.
I'm very excited. Like I've gotten to ride in a Tesla with autopilot before as a passenger, and that blew me away. I was like, this car is driving itself. So I'm a little nervous, but yeah, sign me up. Put me in that. But yeah, like Terry said, I hope sounds cool. It sounds amazing, and I'm very excited about it,
Paul.
especially to be able to pilot one. But that's another story.
Yeah, but no, for this exercise, though, you're not the pilot. It's not up to you.
Right,
Somebody
right.
else, software piloting.
I'd think yes, but then also when I'm in the plane, I'm kind of like wondering if everything's gonna be okay.
Does this
No,
pilot know what they're doing?
I would if it cost less. I would not pay more in order. I say that, but if it's faster, you're kind of gonna pay. I don't know. That's a tough one. That's tough.
I asked about this. I asked the guy at Whisk. I said, what is they talk about democratizing the airspace. And I said, okay, so is this like democratizing to the tune of like, this is the same cost as a private limo? Or is this democratizing to the tune of, this is the same cost as an Uber? And he said it's actually much closer to the Uber, that you probably wouldn't take it every single time, but if you needed to get somewhere a little faster, you'd pay a little more.
And volume, like, because you don't want this. This is not your 8-seat charter jet that it's like, hey, we're not lowering the price. You want the 2 pilots, you want the fuel, you want those costs are fixed, as opposed to like this thing can't sit. You want this thing to go back and forth, run as much as possible. So, no, I'd get in it. Yeah, I wouldn't put my kids in it, but
I would get in it in a heartbeat. I have teenagers. My dad's like 85. He was still driving when he was 85. Are you kidding me? I take the software
that's too
any day.
what Samuel mentioned. Like I talked to my friend a month ago. I was like, I have friends, right? And then I said, I cannot believe what our kids are going to drive. Right? Like we had like when they are like the capabilities, what the car looks like, how it interacts with the surroundings. It is going to be really, really, really neat. And then so exponential. Just to get back there, it was great. San Diego military focus. It was crazy. I saw walking from the airport to the show, seeing just the local environment and nice place. There was the battleships. I walked past. The guy told me it was a $300 million yacht that was apparently owned by a Russian. Right. So like this boat, it was the most insane boat I've ever seen right there in San Diego. So saw you saw that right away, but military focus, a lot of commercial push. I think just the climate, like I mentioned, having in that little piece, if anyone read it, it just seems like with the border situation that we have and being able to kind of monitor that with, the Ukraine and all that. And then the Israeli things happening in the Middle East, there's this huge push, and there's been just coming out of exponential. I think what we all felt and saw makes sense with some of the stuff that again we're coming into an end here of our show. So probably as more develops on that weaponization of drones and how these companies kind of begin to navigate forward, that might be interesting. But I'm enjoying the civil side of things, right? The light shows, the fun stuff. I say pilotless air taxis with fireworks attached. How about that, Samuel? He's like, sign me up twice.
I was going to say that is a double win in my book.
You can see
2 W's, big.
the drone. The pilotless air taxi has its own baby drones that come out, and you get a light show while you're riding. That would be pretty cool.
We're going back to like 2014 or 15 when the guy like got in trouble for putting a flamethrower on his that ball.
I remember seeing a concept for drone
it's
delivery back in 2019. It was an Amazon blimp, and then a bunch of little baby drones would pop out and then go to their destination. I don't know if
patent out on that.
Did they?
Out on that. Anybody look on Drone Life, Amazon? Yes, you can see that.
That's crazy.
The future. So we had a couple other things. And so with Exponential, I do think for the folks that haven't been or was their first one and they thought, oh, what is this? There was a lot of military. There was this drone there that had some, munitions on it. And so people are like, what did I just walk into? And it was like, well, this it might not have been the first. And so AUVSI, not just drones that fly, right? Autonomous. We're seeing huge pushes in vehicles, ground vehicles, water vehicles. So the years to come, we're going to see Houston, aerospace, SpaceX, all these small companies that are launching small sats and developing softwares and technologies. They're all wrapping up drones. Humans, why do we use drones on the ground? Eventually you get to this point where the human can't go easily, right? Or the cost is too high, the risk is too high, so we deploy a drone. Well, if we're trying to explore the depths of space, everywhere a human goes, you have to have life support systems, oxygen. You have to be able to create water. All those systems are expensive, and there's risk. So once the human gets as far as it can go, we don't stop exploring, right? Let's deploy the drone, the Mars rover. So for the same reasons we're leveraging autonomous vehicles, remote piloted vehicles on Earth, is the same reason we're going to be integrating them into the future of space. And I had sat down with Iridium and Joe Durden and talked to him, and he just mentioned, yeah, we've got operators that are using, remote controls to keep our satellites in orbit. So, it's another step in this autonomous piloting. And then the year after that, Detroit. So anyone who's big into automotive and cars and vehicles, whether it's gas or EV, they're all going to run the same software in order to navigate down the road. So I think that'll be a cool show. Terry, I don't know if you like cars. And then Miami, boats, autonomous boats. Saab launched, their autonomous boat. So it was really cool to see someone on a rooftop with like a video game driving steering wheel, and on the screen was a camera that was mounted on a boat, and the boat was down in the marina, and he was giving it throttle, turning left, turning right, and doing the same thing we have learned to do with drones, but just on a water-based vehicle. So Houston, Detroit, Miami, lots of autonomous systems. But if you like drones and flying drones, commercial UAV, get out to Las Vegas, right, in September. It's a great show for, flying aerial vehicles. And that's my little spiel on Exponential for folks who may not have been able to get out there. And also what to look forward to if you're setting your calendar.
And I think you do make a great point too about the there is a military focus now, but honestly, I used to say I don't write about military drones, and if it says Reaper, Predator, I still don't write about that. Really, that's not my area of expertise. But these small drones are transferring so quickly from military to commercial or commercial to military. A lot of the functionality is the same. So it's really worth watching, even if your primary interest is in civil drones.
And then
I was going to say, even being at AUVSI and seeing those robot dogs walking around, I always thought they were just, I never really thought for civilian use, but I mean, it kind of proved me wrong there when I saw them.
Right. They're actually on construction sites and all kinds of different places. Like they can do the same way you would have an automated aerial, go a route to take pictures to monitor progress or something. You can have Spot do the same thing on the ground.
And I saw the dog houses when I saw what that company was. I think it was it's at Asylon, isn't it?
Asylon, yeah, they have one. Yeah.
And to roll into that, it was, I'm pretty sure, our last item that we'll cover here before closing is Asylon, from a success story, achieves a significant waiver. And I think it was this article, and I went to their website and they had the dog house. Are they the ones integrating the dog?
Yes.
So you got the drone that can deploy rapidly and you get airborne, but it's got limited flight time. And then you have, a dog house, just like a drone nest, and you can have these ground-based robots that can.
Right. And Asylon is truly there. I'm so glad you chose them as a success story. I love talking about these guys because I think I saw them several years ago at one of their very first shows. They were right out of college, a bunch of brilliant guys who kind of came up with an idea in college and executed it. And now their product offering has kind of evolved over time. So now they're really deep into this concept of sort of an automated perimeter security using aerial drones and ground robotics, integrating the two, very sophisticated software, super effective. They have federal and civil customers, and they truly are a success story of someone who started with a great idea, stuck with it, and were willing to evolve as their customer needs arose, to be where they are today. And so love to see them chosen as sort of a success story to talk about. And then this latest waiver with the FAA makes it much more practical for them to be doing truly remote security missions. So just for anybody who's just listening, Paul's showing an actual video of this. You can see this. Is that on their website or on YouTube, Paul?
This is on their website.
Yeah, so it's Asylon Robotics, ASYLON Robotics.
And so they're offering a full, this waiver is allowing them to kind of do what we've seen in the traditional security space, install hardware at your location, and then you have 24/7 monitoring and support.
Mm-hmm. So you're flying from a sort of drone in a box type situation. You can sort of schedule your missions. You also have Spot in his doghouse, and you can schedule his missions. And
for large property, like I think, critical infrastructure, just any, these businesses that have huge campuses, locally. We've got companies that have, they got a little amphitheater and tennis courts, and you've got 700 parking spots, and you're doing pharmaceutical research. There's a reason you've got the security person in a booth. Then you find out they're contracted because it's this, again, keeping security with the traditional aspect. It's adding to that value, and it's around the clock. But when I saw this, I was like, man, that is really, really cool. The dog houses, again, integrating it into a suite of solutions.
Yeah,
I've got two. I got drone. I got dog 1 and dog 2. They're just not autonomous, and I cannot control them. So,
and they need to be fed. That's just not the same.
Water, and then you hear the bowl. I'm like, I look at my wife, and you could just hear the Ray's licking the bottom of the bowl. You can kind of hear it. I'm like, that's. Do you need more water? Okay. What do you guys think about that? You seen any of this stuff, Terry?
I was looking at this the other day. The only thing I can think of right now is how hard it's going to be to break into anywhere in the next 10 years. You're going to get caught immediately. It's going to be impossible. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, and you think about some of the aspects of this, like when you start talking about kind of the Internet of Things, where the drone spots something and that triggers a different alarm protocol, and that triggers something else. So you end up with sort of people on the scene at the place that you broke through. I think if anybody's going to be a criminal, they're going to have to be like Moriarty. They're going to have to be like an action film thing where they're spinning under the lasers.
and that's so, I didn't even think about it like that. Terry's like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be so hard to break it. It's like, I'm like, everybody's that is so cool. It's such a great way to look at it. But even from businesses, I just wanted to bring this up for folks who are just listening on Audible only. Sunflower Labs, Swiss company, They originally created this product to be integrated at a home. So imagine,
Yes.
a larger right here, you've got a video showing just your residential house and being able to integrate some ground-based sensors. And if someone walks across that sensor, the drone will then deploy. So it's like you said, Terry, it's definitely
It's all about prevention. This will make crime rate go down if it gets employed everywhere.
I think if you think about it, of course we have a limited time for this. In 20 years, they'll be so familiar, people won't feel this way anymore. But how intimidating is it if you're trying to like sneak across someone's backyard and all of a sudden there's like taking pictures of you? Hello.
So everything's connected to security and all our money's in crypto, so you can't access it. You can't. I told my dad, I said, look, this is the way it works. It's so secure. If you lose your key, it's gone forever. So you will never find it. You can't make a new one. You can't print a new one. It's so they can't find it, but you can't find it either. I'm like, that's the security aspect. And so I'm like, oh wow, this is. And at the same time, though, if you talk to the right person, we're less secure than ever.
Yeah,
so
depends.
Yeah.
I could never have a crypto key. Like, are you kidding? At my age, I forget everything.
You're 12 words, and then they're like,
what?
Don't write this down anywhere, but write this down on a piece of paper. And so it's
I'd have to have it like tattooed or something.
That's what dogs are for, right? Anyway, well, really appreciate, I think the regulatory, we can just touch on the regulatory piece, probably not a full 5 minutes, but part 108 was just, we're going to end on a regulatory corner. We're going to keep a nice little format here and just kind of progress through each show. Each week there may not be a huge regulatory thing that changes, but for folks that are tuning in, if you aren't aware of a part 108, or the FAA's part 108 as far as where things are headed, I like to think of it as instrument flight rules. So from you have a pilot who can fly when they can see outside, and then you have a pilot who is rated to fly in the clouds. And when you're flying in the clouds, you cannot visually see other aircraft. You cannot visually see the horizon. You're relying 100% on your instruments. When you're flying beyond visual line of sight, you are relying 100% on your instruments. You cannot see the aircraft or other aircraft. And, definitely look this up, do some digging and some investigation. But part 108 is that component that I believe the Drone Advisory Council has been doing a lot of work on and making the recommendations to the FAA. But it looks like that could be the future for beyond visual line of sight.
Sounds good. And the last thing I heard was we are expecting an NPRM on that. That's a notice of proposed rulemaking by the end of this year. So that would mean that then it has to go through comments and evaluation and so forth. So we might see an actual rule in 2025. And I know that sounds like a lot, but that's actually a lot of progress.
A lot of what hopefully network hopefully remote ideas maybe set the foundation for, certainly lots of, again, had spoken to Iridium about the ability to go beyond visual line of sight, and people don't think of those operational requirements as far as, am I going to have, am I using cellular connectivity? If I'm doing pipelines, is there cellular service in that area? Do I need to use a satellite-based communications? And so it's really exciting to see this all continue to develop. So check that out, part 108, next step in advanced drone operations. It was really this episode going through a couple of those first articles that we touched on here. I forgot to make note of it before we went into the light shows. When we talk about Brink and Skyfire and their partnership to help advance the DFR space. Goodness, drawing a blank.
Yeah, and we had actually a lot of great stuff on the site this week from different shows. We had NASA, we had a lot of different perspectives from the show in addition. So if you missed anything, check it out on Drone Life.
Yeah, we talked about Mass DOT. They had the cyber event. They're doing a lot in person. Anyone tuning in from Massachusetts, definitely get involved out there. They're super open to connecting and networking based on what I've heard and what Miriam you've experienced in person. We touched on drone light shows. If you haven't seen one and it pops up, I think it was like $20. It was well worth the $20. The kids didn't no ticket charge for the kids. So if there's a light show nearby you, definitely go check it out. Great things being done by Pix4D and others in the building information modeling, GEODNET, cryptocurrency, utility tokens, blockchain, Polygon. What's awesome, some folks are going to be very familiar with that. And they're going to go, wow, GEODNET's really cool. Some people might not. Go check it out, read a little bit. If you have questions, again, send it to Miriam.
Or Paul.
If it's about, or Paul, it's about GEODNET. Yeah, it's about, so Paul Rossi at 910drones.com. Paul ROSSI at 910drones.com. If you have questions about these topics, GEODNET, Pix4D, the light shows, send them to us. We want to answer them next week. We talked a little about Amsterdam, lots of momentum being picked up in the shows. I think, Drone Week and I forget the cameras right here. Going overseas next year, AVSI and stuff, and then Exponential. Make sure you check that out, get involved. And huge congratulations to Asylon Robotics and this waiver for Beyond Visual Line of Sight. Check out what they're doing as they advance and grow operations, and as they deploy more of these units. I'm sure they're going to need, just like all these other companies, refrigerators, vehicles. Tesla comes and does the repairs at your house. Well, they have to have technicians. The more cars, the more technicians. So check out Asylon if you got that technical background, the Part 107, to do some of the test flights and things on a scheduled basis. I'm sure that's part of the safety and the business aspect. So look into them, reach out, talk to the people. Every great business is just a product of the great people that are behind it. And Part 108, if you aren't familiar with it, check that out. Next step in advanced drone regulations here. Thank you to everybody who listened for tuning in. Make sure that you're checking out dronelife.com for upcoming news over the next week. And we'll be putting this stuff out on the YouTube and the social media, so follow there, and always reach out. You can ask questions. I think, Miriam, that might be also a great place for people to eventually engage and ask questions about past and future episodes. And thank you. Just want to let everybody else, if you have any closing comments here before we end our first episode. I think it was great. I appreciate all the efforts going into this. I look forward to continue to bring the information to the audience.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate the time. You guys kind of took me back to different moments in my drone history, so I appreciate that. I don't know why, but for a minute you brought me back to the GoPro Karma, which was a GoPro drone. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I don't know why that came up.
Oh yeah, the one where the battery shook out.
Yeah,
it dropped from the
it
sky.
had a lot of issues, but it had a gimbal you would stick into the drone. But anyways, sorry. But thank you.
Karma drone. No, that's good. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks. That was the weekly wings. Hope you guys all found some good insight from that, and we'll see you next time.